We continue now at the top of Daf Kuf Yud Aleph Amud Beis Mesechet Sanhedrin. This is Sanhedrin Daf 111b. On the previous Amud, the Gemara brought a machlokas whether Moshe Rabbeinu saw the midah of erech apayim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is slow to anger, or did he see the midah of emes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the midah of truth? And the Gemara is in the middle of bringing a brisa that it was erech apayim, that it was the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is slow to anger. And in the discussion between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Moshe Rabbeinu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says erech apayim, slow to anger, is even for the wicked. And Moshe Rabbeinu said that the wicked, they should be destroyed, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, you're going to regret saying that it only applies to the tzaddikim, you're going to want the erech apayim to be even for the rishoyim. And when in fact Klal Yisrael sinned, that was the discussion back and forth between Moshe Rabbeinu and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. As the Gemara now continues, Amar Lefan of Ribbono Shel Olam, Moshe Rabbeinu said to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he said, Master of the world, V'lo kach amarta li af l'rishoyim, didn't you say to me that erech apayim is even for the wicked, and so therefore you should forgive Klal Yisrael? And the Gemara continues and says, V'hainu dichsiv, and that's what's written in the pasuk, V'yata yigdal na koach Hashem ka'asher dibarta, the strength of Hashem, it should increase like you spoke, ka'asher dibarta lemor. The idea is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like you said, not like I said, like you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, said that erech apayim applies even to the rishoyim. And the Gemara continues, Rabbi Chaba havesolek v'yazal bedarga devei Rava bar Shela. Rabbi Chaba was going up the stairs in the yeshiva of Rava bar Shela, and Shamei lahu yanuka, he heard a certain child, the Yamar, that the child was saying the pasuk of Eidosecha nemnu ma'od leveischa noava kodesh Hashem liorach yam. He said this pasuk that's in Tehillim, that your testimony is Nemon, and Hashem liorach yam, as we'll see in a moment, is a reference to the fact that Hashem is slow to anger. V'samachle, and near that pasuk is Tefillah LaMoshe, where it says Tefillah LaMoshe, and when he heard these psukim, Amar, he said, Shmami, no, we see from this, erech apayim ra, that it was actually the midah of erech apayim, it was the midah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was slow to anger. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu saw. As Rashi explains, Eidosecha Hashem liorach yamim, hainu midas erech apayim, that's a reference to the midah of erech apayim, that Hashem is slow to anger. V'yaleh Amar Moshe, and it was about that midah that Moshe said, Eidosecha nemnu ma'od, that he made the statement of Eidosecha nemnu ma'od, meaning, Shera oso b'chorv, that he saw that at Har Sinai, he saw that midah. Upasuk zeh Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom amru, and this pasuk was said by Moshe Rabbeinu. T'chsiv le'el minei, because it's written earlier, Tefillah LaMoshe Yisrael Elokim, it says Tefillah LaMoshe, as the Gemara just said, and so therefore he said, you see from this, that it was the midah of erech apayim that Moshe Rabbeinu saw. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Lazar, Amar Rabbi Chanina. Rabbi Lazar says that Rabbi Chanina says, Asad HaKadosh Baruch Hu lios atara, barosh kol tzadik v'tzadik. In the future, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be like a crown on every tzadik. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, Bayom hahu yeh Hashem tzavakos la'teres savi. Hashem will be a crown of glory, v'letzviras sifara, and he will be a diadem of beauty, l'sharamo, for the remnant of his nation. And the Gemara says, Ma'ila teres savi v'letzviras tifara. What does it mean that he's going to be this crown? For who? La'osim ritzono u'mitzabim lishuaso. It's for those who do his will and for those who wait for his salvation. And the Gemara says, Yachol hakol. Now one might think that's for everybody who fits into that category. Talmud lomer, the pasuk again, the pasuk says, L'sharamo, for the remnant of the nation. And we understand that to mean, L'misha mesim atzmo keshirayim. It's for those who consider themselves like remnant, meaning to say it's for those who are not arrogant. And the Gemara continues, the pasuk says in Sefer Yeshayahu, L'ruach mishpat, this is the pasuk continuing in Yeshayahu from the pasuk above of Bayom hahu. It says, L'ruach mishpat, for a spirit of judgment, L'yoshev ala mishpat, to sit on judgment, V'ligvura, and for might, Meshiva melchama, from those at war, Shara, of the gate. And the Gemara darshans this part of the pasuk, L'ruach mishpat, what does it mean, Ruach mishpat? Zeharodes yitzro, that refers to somebody who conquers his Yetzer hara. L'yoshev ala mishpat, what is Yoshev ala mishpat? Zehadon din emes lamito, that's somebody who issues a true ruling and judgment. V'legvura zeh misgaver b'yitzro, and the gevura, that refers to somebody who overcomes his Yetzer hara. And meshiva melchama zeh shenosei v'nosen b'melchamta shel Torah, when it talks about war, it means that somebody who gives and takes in the war of Torah and learning. And shara, when it says the gate, elu shemashkimin u'ma'arivin b'vatei chnasios u'batei midrashos, those are the people who rise and they stay late in the synagogues and in the batei medrash, and these are the individuals who are going to get that reward, that crown that's mentioned in the pasuk. And the Gemara continues, Amra midas hadin lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The midah of judgment says before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribono Shel Olam, Master of the world, manishtanu elu me'elu. What's the difference, these and those? What are these people doing that's different than those that are not getting that reward? Amar Loi says to her, V'gam eila b'yayin shagu v'shecher to, paku palilia. The pasuk says that those individuals, the pasuk in Yeshayahu, it talks about the fact that they are drunk with wine, they're intoxicated, and paku palilia, as the Gemara will now darshan, ve'in puka ela gehenim. Puka is a reference to the fact that those individuals, those who stray, they are going to go to Gehenim, shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, Lotia zos lecha lefuka, that's a pasuk in Shmuel, ve'ein pelila, and the word pelila in the pasuk, what's that a reference to? Ve'ein pelila ela dayanim. Pelila is a reference to the dayanim, to the judges, shenemar v'nasan beflilim, like it says in the pasuk, v'nasan beflilim, that's a reference to judgment. And Rashi explains, manishtanu elu me'elu, how are these different than those? Meaning, sheyesh b'hem midos halolu, those who have these midos min hashar from others. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, b'yayin shagwa, it's because they make a mistake, because they drink wine. Ve'in plila ela dayonin, and plila again refers to judges. And we should note that the actual translation of the end of the pasuk, paku plilia, is that they stumble in judgment. That's what the pasuk is referring to. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Anshe Ir Hanidachas, the people of an Ir Hanidachas, that's a city where the majority of the residents of the city are led astray and they worship Avodah Zarah. Ein lahem chelek le'olam haba, they do not have a portion in the world to come. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, Yatzu anashim b'nei Belial mikirbecha vayadichu es yoshvei iram. Again, it talks about the fact that they subverted the residents of the city. And Rashi explains, Yatzu anashim b'nei Belial mikirbecha she'ein lam chelek le'olam haba. The pasuk means that they left from your midst, meaning they do not have a portion in the world to come. And the Mishnah continues, they don't get killed unless those who subvert, those who convince them to worship the Avodah Zarah, they come from that city, and they come from that tribe. It has to be that the majority of the residents of the city end up worshiping the Avodah Zarah. It has to be that men are the ones that convince them to worship the Avodah Zarah. If it's women or children that convince them, or let's say a minority of the city is worshiping the Avodah Zarah. Let's say the people who are subverting, the people who are convincing the people in the city to worship Avodah Zarah come from outside the city. So then so then everyone who worshipped Avodah Zarah, they're not judged like in Ir Hanidachas, they're judged individually. Then you need to have two witnesses in warning for each individual. And the Mishnah continues, in this way, individuals are actually treated stricter than when it's a lot of people. Because if it's an individual who worships Avodah Zarah, he gets skila, stoned. And since we're so strict with an individual, so their money will escape. We will not destroy their property. But when we're administering the punishment to the entire city as an Ir Hanidachas, to the public, to the merubin, so then the punishment is sayif, beheading, and that's a little more lenient. Therefore we're more strict with the property, and their property is destroyed. And the Mishnah continues, the pasuk says, Hake sakes yoshvei oir hazos leficharev. It says that you're going to surely strike the residents of the city. And the Mishnah says, Hachameres v'hagameles, if you have people driving through with donkeys or camels, hoveres mimakom lamakom, they pass through from place to place, but they stay in this city for a little while, hare'elu matzilanosa, they can actually save the city. And the idea is they can save the city because now we can say there are more residents of the city, and maybe it's going to be a minority of the city now that worship Avodah Zarah, and not a majority because you count these individuals. And the Mishnah continues, Shenemar hacharei mosav yaskol asher ba v'yasbehemta lefi charev. The pasuk says that you destroy it and the animals lefi charev. Mikan amru, and from this pasuk they say, nechsei tzadikim shebesocha ovdin, that if it's property of the righteous that's in the city, that's destroyed. But shebechutzala, but if it's property of the righteous outside the city, Platon, that already is going to be saved. We won't destroy that. V'shel reshoim, however, if it's property of the wicked, it doesn't matter where it is. Bein shebesocha, bein shechutzala, doesn't matter if it's inside, doesn't matter if it's outside. Harei lo-ovdin, that's destroyed. Shenemar, and then the pasuk goes on to say, "V'eskol shlola tikbots al toch rechova." It says you have to take all of the spoils and gather it into the main town square. Im ein la rechov, if there is no town square, osen la rechov, you have to make one. Haisa rechova chutza left, that main street is outside of it. Kontenos alasochas, you have to gather it into the city. And the Mishnah continues. Shenemar, the pasuk says, "V'sarafta bo'esha so'ir v'eskol shlola kolil Hashem alokecha," and we darshan from this pasuk shlola, it's the spoils of this city, v'lo shlal shamayim Shemayim, but not if it belongs to heaven. Mikanim, or from here they say, Ha'ekdeshos Sheba, if you have something that's hektish, if you have something that's holy, Yiftu, that's redeemed, Utrumos, and if it's something that's Truma Yirkavu, that's left to rat, and Meiser Sheni, V'chisvei HaKodesh, if there's Meiser Sheni, or there's Kisvei HaKodesh, there's holy writings, Yignazu, those should be buried. Kala la Hashem Elokecha, it says, Kala la Hashem Elokecha. Amar Rabbi Shimon says, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Imatem osin din be'ir hanidachas, if you do the proper judgment for near hanidachas, malani aleichem ki'ilu atem malim ola kolil lefanai, it's as if you brought an ola before me. And the pasuk says, "V'haisa tel olam," that this area is going to remain desolate. Lo sa'aseh ginos upardesim. You cannot make the city. You can't turn it into gardens and orchards. Divrei Rabbi Yossi Aglili. That's what Rabbi Yossi Aglili says. But Rabbi Akiva says, "Lo sibona od l'chamos shahaisa." It can no longer be built as it was. Eina nivnes, that it can't be built in that fashion. Avol nazis hi ginos upardesim, but it can be turned into gardens and orchards. And then the pasuk says, "V'lo yidbak b'yodcha me'uma min achayrim." It says you can't take anything from there. Shekol zman sharashon ba'olam, because as long as there are wicked in the world, charon af ba'olam, there's anger in the world. Avdu rasham min ha'olam, if the wicked are destroyed from the world, nistale charon af min ha'olam, then the anger, it disappears from the world. And we will note over here that when the Mishnah says shenemar, it is an awkward language, because shenemar is usually bringing a proof to something that was said earlier, but here it's kind of that the Mishnah is starting a new sentence, and that's why the Gra notes by these shenemars, like this shenemar over here, and this one as well, the Masorah Hashas notes, to take out those words shenemar. And the Gemara says, Tanu Rabban, and the rabbis taught, Yotzu, it says they went out, it means hein v'lo shluchin, it means they, and not agents. It means to say that they themselves, they subverted the city, they convinced them to worship Avodah Zarah, they didn't send agents to do that, that's when we consider it Ir Hanidachas. And it says Anoshim, it says that they were men that subverted the city, ein Anoshim pachos mibeis. If it says in plural Anoshim, it means it has to be at least two of them, otherwise it's not an Ir Hanidachas. Davar Acher, another explanation, Anoshim v'lo Noshim, it means men and not women. Anoshim v'lo Katanim, it means men and not minors. And Bnei Belial, it says that these are wicked people. It means Bonim sheparku ol shamayim mitzavreim. It means Bonim, children they've released the yoke of heaven from their necks. And then it says Mikar Becha, from among you, from your midst. V'lo min hasfar, it has to be a city that's in the middle of the country. It cannot be a city that's along the border to be an Ir Hanidachas. And Yoshvei Iram, it says the residents of their city. V'lo Yoshvei Ir Acheres, it can't be residents from another city that subverted this city. And then it says Lamor, saying, and we understand from the word Lamor, shetzrichen edem v'hasra l'chol echad v'echad, that we need witnesses and warning for every single one. And Rashi explains, Lamor nelcha v'navda, those are the words of the pasuk saying, let us go and let us worship Avodah Zarah. Mashma shetzarach lomar lefanenu, that pasuk implies that the witnesses need to say in front of us, shekach omrim, that this is what the people were saying. They were saying to the residents of the city, nelcha v'navda, let us go and serve. Ve'en amira ela b'edem, now amira, if it says that they say, it means that there are witnesses. Al matzarach edem l'chol echad v'echad, we see that you need witnesses for every individual, sheya'idu aleim, that they have to testify about them, Masha Amr, what exactly they said, that they said Nelcha v'navda, etc. V'hachanami, and similarly, Tzarach Hasra, l'chol echad v'echad mehem, there would need to be a warning for every individual. And the Gemara continues, Itmar, it was stated, Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Rabbi Yochanan says, Cholkin ir achas l'shnei shavatim, you can have a situation where one city is divided among two tribes. Reish Lakish says, Ein cholkin ir achas l'beis shvatim, we don't divide one city among two tribes. And the Gemara continues, Eisrei Rabbi Yochanan l'Reish Lakish, Rabbi Yochanan asked Reish Lakish the following question from our Mishnah. It said, Ad shiyu madicha me'oso ha'ir, u'me'oso shevet, it says the people who are subverting the residents of the city, they have to be from that city, and they have to be from that shevet. So my lav is it not? Afagav de madicheh may also hear what the Mishnah means to say is, even if the madicheh, if the subverters are from that city, iika may also shevet in, if they're from the same shevet, yes, ilolo, but if not, not. So shma minasa, don't you see from that, cholken irachas lebeis shvatim, that you can divide one city among two shvatim, because the whole point over here is saying they have to be both from the same city and from the same shevet, as if you can have one city with different shvatim. And the Gemara continues, lo, no, not necessarily. The Nafla Birusha could be, let's say, a certain part of the property, he inherited it through his mother's side. There might be some owner of property in the city that happens to be from another shevet, but it doesn't mean that when we divide it up, Eretz Yisrael, we divided up one city among two shvatim. Inami diyahavu nihile b'matana, or maybe it was given to him as a gift. You can have a resident of a city that's from a different shevet. Again, it doesn't mean that when we divided up the land of Eretz Yisrael, we divided the city among two shvatim. And the Gemara continues, Eisvei, we have a question from a pasuk. The pasuk pasuk says, Orim Teisha Me'esh Shnei Hashvatim Ha'ela. It's talking about taking from 2 Shvatim, you give these 9 cities from among 2 Shvatim, you give them over to the Levium. That's what the pasuk is talking about in Sefer Yoshua. And so my lav is it not? Arbo Palga Mehai, V'Arbo Palga Mehai. We're giving 4.5 cities from this Shevet, and 4.5 cities from the other Shevet, again, 2 Shevet Levi. Ushmamina, and then we would see from there, Cholken Irachas Lebeis Shvatim, that we divide one city among 2 Shvatim. And the Gemara says, no, that's not necessarily what it means. Arba Mehai, V'Chamesh Mehai. Maybe it was 4 from this particular Shevet and 5 cities from the other Shevet. But the Gemara says to that, if so lefrushe prushe, then you should really explain which is which one is 4 and which one is 5. And Rashi explains, Orim Teisha Me'eshnei Hashvatim Ha'ela, Mimate Yehuda Mimate Shimon. The pasuk is saying, take from the tribe of Yehuda and the tribe of Shimon, not Lutes Orim, Unisonim LeLeviim. We're going to take 9 cities from them and give them to the Leviim. Ma'elav the Shakal Mehai Dalet Upalga Shoysi Yerechad Shel Yehuda v'Shimon. There must have been one of the cities must have been shared by Yehuda and Shimon. V'nat Lumehem, and it was taken from them. Al Mecholken Yerachas L'Shnei Shvatim. You see that we divide one city among 2 tribes. And then the Gemara finally asked, Yachi lefrushe prushe, if it was 4 and 5, it should have said that. Hai ninu shevet the shakal mine hey, it should say which shevet we take 5, v'hai ninu the shakal mine dalet, in which we take 4. V'amai kosev arim teisha me'es shnei hashvatim. Why would it say 9 cities from 2 tribes? Mashma de v'shav shakal. That sounds like they're being taken from them equally, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Kuf Yud Beis Amud Aleph.